Hello everyone, this is Haneve, and I'm coming to you with Rose Petals, an Eyeless Jack X reader by Afflicted-Alibis. I do apologize for late postings or no postings at all. I know you guys say it's okay, but my siblings are pretty loud, and they have been home more often, and today they were able to stay after school, so it's amazing. But we're going to be starting off with Chapter 19, The Man with a Smile, Your POV. You sat in the living room with the abandoned building on a pillow you'd placed on the floor. Liam on the other end of the coffee table you were at, sitting on the couch. Between you and him sat a halfway finished chess match, and you were currently waiting for Liam to make his first move. Jack was gone. He had left hours ago with Jeff to retrieve supplies. If it weren't for Liam, you would have insisted on going with them, as the last thing you wanted to do was sit around with hardly anything but your thoughts to keep you occupied. After Jack had left, you had the courtesy of unpacking all the stuff from the backpack Jeff had taken. All that was left to gather in terms of ingredients was human saliva and hair, along with brain matter from one of its proxies. You had offered your own saliva and some strands of your hair, putting them next to all of the other ingredients you had set out. The verbena you had given Jack was already wilted. At the time, it had reminded you of the roses he'd given you, which were now sitting up in the room you'd chosen. You still thought it was strangely nice of Jeff to consider keeping them for you and taking apart your car. Liam finally moved his pawn. Why do they look like they do? I thought Jack was just wearing a costume. For you, Liam's calmness about their appearance had taken you by surprise, especially for someone as young as he was. Though perhaps it shouldn't surprise you. And maybe his young age was why it didn't bother him as much. You rubbed the back of your neck. Well, none of it's a costume. That's what they really look like. Jack kind of got caught up with the thing we're running from some years ago. I still have to ask him about it, so... He shrugged. And I couldn't tell you what happened to Jeff. Jeff looks weird. You chuckled. Yeah, he does. You still had yet to tell him about what was going on, and you could not help but feel bad for it. But you had not wanted to rush him into all of it, so as long as you had the choice. No 9-year-old should have to go through all of this. And he's mean, Liam added with a bit more content. His bottle lip popped out as he hunched forward, resting his head on the palm of his hand. He yelled at me in the car. You moved your knight, taking out the pawn he had just moved, and hummed in thought. What do you say we get back at him? We should kick him. I was thinking of something more devious. He moved a piece, and then you did, and then suddenly he straightened up where he sat, a triumphant expression rising on his face. Ha! He threw out and swiped up one of his pieces. You fell for my trap, he exclaimed, knocking over your piece and slamming his down on the square. You mimicked his pout from a moment ago. Ah, damn, you're way too good at this for it being your second time playing. He giggled. Nah, I'm just better than you. You rolled your eyes but smiled and moved another piece. You weren't going to tell him that you were letting him win. The front door flew open and slammed against the wall behind you, causing you to jump. You twisted around where you sat to see Jeff hurrying into the building with a sack full of stuff in one hand. Jack entered much more calmly behind him, barely managing to stop the door from bouncing back on him before shutting it. We're back, Jeff announced unnecessarily. The usual look of disgust you saw on his face returning the moment his bulging, lidless eyes caught sight of you. He carelessly tossed the sack down on the chair next to the couch. You better have been doing something other than sitting around like a lazy fuck all day. He growled at you. It pained you to keep your face neutral. I set the ingredients and stuff in the sewing room. His lips furled upward. That's it. The hell do you want me to do? You snapped back. Dust and do the dishes? You could have found a way to get the power running, he retorted. You scowled, shooting up onto your feet as you turned to him. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you expect me to just pull a power source out of my ass? If you did, it'd be the first useful damn thing you've done. How about the both of you just shut up? Jack's annoyed voice cut in from where he stood off to the side. He, too, was holding a sack, and from the looks of it, it was filled with food. We'll deal with the power later. We should just eat. Jeff scoffed, looking to him. It could have already been dealt with if your dumb bitch of a partner... Jeff. Jack barked, interrupting him. Food. Eating. Now. He held up the sack to emphasize, and then swiveled around on a heel and headed for the kitchen doorway. The smiling man appeared as if he were about to explode in a fit of rage as he glared death at the back of Jack's head, his paper-white skin now flooding with a deep, frustrated red. You would have snickered at it, were you not so caught up in the way he just referred to you as Jack's partner. Stupid fucking, Jeff grumbled to himself as Jack disappeared into the kitchen. He pushed out a frustrated breath before shooting you a nasty look and stomping after the other man. You sighed, forcing yourself to calm down and look at your little brother. Any ideas on how you get back at him yet? He pushed himself off the couch, going to you. Nope. Well, let me know when you've got one, you said, taking him by the hand and leading him toward the kitchen. As soon as you entered, the uninviting stench of Jack's freshly harvested kidneys wrinkled your nose. Jack and Jeff were standing over the sack set on the table in the middle of the room, pulling out all the canned foods and the jar of kidneys from it. "What's that smell?" Liam asked in disgust, his face screwing. He released her hand, rounding the table to get closer to the cans. Jack rushed to cover up the jar of kidneys to hide it from Liam. His shoulders tensed as he struggled for a line. He looked to you for help. You shifted, fumbling for an answer. Well, Jack likes chopped liver, you stammered, and then internally face-palmed. Stupid. Jeff snorted, but said nothing as he took a can opener to some canned green beans. You stiffly approached the table, joining in on taking food from the pile. Liam stopped and looked at you as if deciding whether or not to believe you, and then whipped back around to the food. "You're gross, Jack." "Damn right he is, kid," Jeff commented in a mutter, pouring out the beans onto a plate. Liam looked up at him with wide eyes and fell quiet, then going back to picking various cans and checking their labels. You picked up on the way Jeff grinned at Liam's reaction, though you were not surprised to see him satisfied in the way he intimidated the little boy. You wanted to tell him it was sad how he had going for such an easy target, but it kept it to yourself. It was strange being where you were, doing what you were doing. After all of your previous encounters with Jeff, you were not as afraid of him as you were the night he dragged you down into the basement, but you did not think you'd ever feel anything but unease around him. At the very least, as long as Jack was around, you could feel somewhat safer. You picked out a few things you felt you could stand to eat cold, and did the same thing as Jeff, piling it all into a plate as you did. Jeff had gone across the room to eat on his own. Jack made his way around the table to stand next to you, since he clearly was not going to eat in front of Liam. Your little brother was still struggling to find something and suddenly held up a can, turning it to where the label faced Jack as he looked at him. "Hey, Jack, what does it say?" You stopped, feeling Jack did the same to you. The next thing you heard was Jeff choke on his food across the room before he burst out into a loud fit of laughter. Liam's face wilted in one of confusion as he looked at Jeff, then at the fidgeting Jack next to you, and then you. "What?" he asked, a voice small. "Jack can't see," you explained shortly. Jeff's roaring laughter only got louder, and you could see him almost fall out of the chair his head sat in. You took hold of Jack's gloved hand and felt him relax at your touch before you then took a butter knife, hurling it across the room toward Jeff. It hit the wall with a loud thud, inches from his head before clanging against the floor, and his laughter abruptly stopped as his attention snapped to you. "Do you want that snot-nosed brat's last memory of you to be your mangled corpse, you fucking?" He spat out immediately. "Don't talk to him like that," you yelled back. "Oh, yeah?" He straightened in his seat. "Then you'd be wise to stop pushing your fucking luck with me." Sorry, you heard Liam mumble, shrinking in on himself. You immediately discarded your exchange with Jeff, looking to your little brother. "You're fine," you told him more gently. "You didn't know." Liam fumbled the can in both his hands, not lightening up. I still don't know what this is." "It's just another vegetable," you said, "but you might like it. Do you want to give it a try?" He nodded, not saying anything else, and he frowned. Once you were finished eating, it was getting late, and you sent Liam to bed. You reminded him to lock the door and only open it if it was you or Jack. You then exited the room, both to give him a little bit of time to yourself and to return to Jack. However, once you had stepped out into the hallway and shut the door, footsteps approached you from the top of the stairs. Your eyes shifted over to see they belonged to Jeff, a displeased expression stuck on his scarred face. "We need to have a talk," he said roughly. You stepped back down the hall, facing him and watching him, waiting for the first indication he was out to hurt you. He neared you faster, but did not take his hands out of his hoodie's pockets. That, at least, was a sign you might not have to fight your way out of the hallway, physically, at least. "Stop backing away." You didn't. He rolled his lidless eyes. "Oh, for fuck's sake," he muttered, lunging forward and swiping up your arm before you had the chance to dodge. You gasped and writhed in his hold as he slammed you against the wall, his iron grip blocking both of your arms to your side. "Stop," he commanded through grit teeth. "Stop fucking moving." You did, but only to meet his glare with your own unyielding one. "Let go of me," you snarled. "I'm not talking to you across the damn hallway." You should have said something then. You should have backed away. You wanted to spit in his face, to kick him off of you and find some way that you could overpower the killer and beat him into a pulp, but you knew, realistically, you could not. What did you want to talk about? Jeff released you, stepping back and replacing his hands in his pockets. The look on his face did not loosen. "How long are you planning on sticking around Jack once this is all over?" "As long as I'm alive," he answered plainly, and then tilted your head to the side. "Why? Do you want Jack all to yourself?" His mutilated lips furled. "You're goddamn lucky you have that bastard around, or I'd break your fucking neck." You crossed your arms and straightened, refusing to entertain his useless threat. After all, you had a lot of time to think throughout the day, and had led to some very interesting conclusions. You care about him more than you want to let on, don't you? You don't plan on leaving his side at all. You allowed your body to relax where you stood now knowing that you knew he would not hurt you. A hot, white spark of anger sparked in his eyes. "Excuse me?" he hissed between his teeth. "That's why you really hate me so much, isn't it?" He smiled. In pity or in amusement, you would allow him to decide. "I was the undoing all the carefully crafted work you've done on him the past 2 years to make him rely on you, stay close to you. He's realized he has worth, he has control, and it was all because of me, and you hate that, right?" Jeff was silent still for a moment, staring at you with his wide, unblinking eyes. Then his chest convulsed with a dry, airy chuckle that turned into a weak laugh. "Oh, it's all ego with you, huh?" He shifted his weight, unable to stay still where he stood. "You don't know shit about me, you little pest, and every goddamn word that just came out of your mouth was a bunch of shit. I asked you because you've been good for nothing but making shit worse." His voice was venom, but you could see that spark flame in his eyes was flickering. Your words were ringing true, no matter how much he was trying to hide it. And that was what provoked you to go on further. "It's a cold, isolated world being a killer on the run, isn't it? Jack coming around must have been quite the blessing for you, but you can't open to others. Maybe you're too scared to, so you had to find another way to keep him around, didn't you?" Jeff was still, head lowering, but eyes not leaving you. Below that carved smile, his face was dark. "Shut the fuck up," he muttered with all the malice he could muster. "So, you took controlling him. You can't stand not having control, and you can't stand the thought of being on your own again once this is all over, right?" "I said shut the fuck up," he said again, louder, more insistent that time. Jack was lonely, being what he is for so long, and never being able to immerse himself back into society again. I was lonely, being in a broken family and having nowhere to go, but really, I think you were the loneliest out of us, Jeff. You uncrossed your arms, stepping forward and extending a hand out toward him. Nervous sweat was accumulating on the side of your face at what you were doing, but you were willing to take the chance and try to reach him. Like I said, I know what that feels like, and Jeff swat your hand away, and the next thing you knew, pain crackled through the side of your face as he slugged you with enough force to send you to the floor. The man towered over you, pulsating with senseless rage. "I said shut the fuck up," he spat. "Don't you ever try to fucking touch me. Don't you dare trying to tell me how the fuck I feel or what it is I'm doing." You began to pick yourself up from the ground, looking up at him as he held your hand to the throbbing part of your face. He had whirled around before you had gotten onto your feet, storming back towards the stairs. "Your friend should have aimed a little higher," he said, and disappeared down the steps. That is the end of that chapter. The chapter after that one is chapter 20, Heated. Let me know what you guys feel about that. And again, I do apologize for not being able to post the last few days. I will see you guys the next time. And until then, bye-bye.